it's the final week in the month of February. Good morning and welcome to your perfect day starter, The Morning Brief. I'm Coyote Okikilo and I'm not alone here in Lagos.
And I'm Jeffrey. Thank you so much for being part of the show. How many days now? 24 days down the line in 28 days of the month of February.
Right,
so
February just gives you that.
You just imagine
jackpot.
The year is really racing. I don't know where the year is going and I have a lot to do.
Thankfully, 10 more months to go.
Yeah.
You can squeeze a lot in 10 months, I imagine.
A lot more.
I find it really intriguing, the conversation, particularly in the U.S., around the civil service and the people working there, whether or not they're efficient. Since Monday means business, we decided to start off on that note. I mean, that's what I've been tracking, Jeffrey, the fact that there's still a lot of back and forth about whether or not well, the government, or at least the Department of Government Efficiency, is able to go that length to ensure that people are efficient, asking, what did you achieve in the last 5 days, for example? And people are meant to respond. Some say, well, it's going to be an academic exercise. People will just fill in all sorts. I did this, I did that. Who is going to really ascertain what they did? That's the bone of contention for some people. Some other people say, well, you do more than this in the private sector. In fact, you tell us what you achieve every day. We have to see what you achieve. And most times you achieve more than you're even given, because the private sector is quite huge on efficiency and effectiveness. So it's a lot of back and forth. Is the Doge able to do this or not? Is this going to topple a lot of things? But one thing is sure, I think it's not too much for your employee to ask, or employer in this case, since the employee is getting paid, the employer can ask for efficiency and what you've done. So I don't know what you think about that, but what I also was thinking about, Jeffrey, is when are we going to have Doge in Nigeria?
There's going to be a lot of problem with that.
There will?
There are two lines. So there's the constitutional latitude as to how far Doge can go. There's that debate between Dems and the GOPs as to what really Doge, how far it can go. On the other hand, I think it's pretty simple on how to know what people can do and ascertain their efficiency. It's simple, set a KPI, key performance indicators, say you're supposed to do this, that, and the other. And some things are not as clear as it's supposed to be. For instance, qualitative expectations. It now becomes a subjective, what do you call it, subjective results, if you will, because there are certain things you can't really measure. They are not like 1, 2, 3, 4. You're supposed to do this. But Elon Musk is coming from the private sector, so I'm sure that is why it's really big. In fact, Donald Trump is saying it's not going hard enough. But people are saying that if you want to be as transparent as you want to be, and you claim to be as efficient as you want to be, especially the Dems, why don't you go to the place that is suspect the biggest waste and corruption takes place the most? The DOD, Department of Defense. Go to the Pentagon. Don't start with all of the small places. If we're talking about efficiency, start with a place we suspect the greatest inefficiency takes place, which is the Department of Defense. But, you know, like in Nigeria, in every country, when it comes to defense, it's a bit tricky because you're borderline on trying to do your work and bordering on national security issues and all of that. But there has to be a way for people to be able to account for what they do with public money. But it's a good move. How it will end, we do not know. If we bring Doge here, where do we start from in Doge? Where do we start from?
Civil service.
I mean,
which of the start from? I think I find it really interesting when people say, "Don't start from us" or "Don't start from this, start from there." Hey,
no, I think it's a valid argument.
Well, if you don't have anything to hide, you're still a part of the civil service.
Yes, I understand. I think I agree with people that say start from where we have the biggest waste. If you really want to cut down. Except for national security issues, I can understand.
Why are you asking them to start from somewhere else if you don't have anything to hide?
No, that's not it. It's not about sentiment. It's about let's say we're losing $1 million, for instance, and we suspect that 600,000 of that dollar is coming from a certain department. 200 is coming from here, 50 is coming from here, 10 is coming from here. Why should I be starting with 10? I'll go to the big boys and get started there. You understand? So that if I can hit the big boys, everybody down the line knows that this is not a joke.
Or just start anyway. And I think, again, it's left to the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, to decide where they want to start. And I think people can at least give them that latitude. If this is you deciding I mean, they started with the whole idea of government efficiency in the first place. So
because they're accusing Elon Musk of being, because he has government contracts in the Department of Defense. Go there first, my guy.
I think that's really clear. Even with the USAID, Tesla, his company, had gotten some sort of, they had some deals. He had been a beneficiary of it.
I just feel
you can't remove him entirely
from the big boys. But I think the shake-up perhaps is necessary for now. People have been relaxed. People have been laid back. USAID brought this upon themselves. From what I understand, they didn't want to open their books and all of that. The government said, okay, we don't have 2 United States of America, we just have 1. Yeah. And there's only 1 commander-in-chief and head of the executive arm. But what are you tracking in Nigeria, by the way?
Naturally, the Osun polls aftermath. What a weekend it was. Do not go ahead with the election. No, we're going ahead with the election. There was a lot of back and forth. The Attorney General of the Federation stepped in with that statement. But guess what? We spoke with the Osun State Electoral Commission's head, and he had said, we're going ahead with that election. And they did go ahead with the election. I heard people start tripping out as early as 6 a.m. Well, the People's Democratic Party, at the end of the day, took no prisoners as they swept the Osun State local government elections, winning all the seats. But how well did the exercise turn out? We'll be taking a look at the conduct, rating the electoral umpires outing, as well as finding out if the conflict is over now. Don't forget, there's still a lot of controversy, and the governor told them, don't resume at the offices just yet.
By the way, self-medication is a bad idea by any standard, whether in Nigeria or outside the country. So do yourself a little favor. We're asking to stay with the program so we can tell you the risk, so you can avoid all of those things you see. Just walk in and buy. It's not a good idea at all, no matter how simple that medication is.
Definitely. And as the fight to end terrorism in Nigeria continues, we'll be examining the military's efforts so far, as well as the role of intelligence and international collaborations.
Women in Business is one of the features we have on our Monday edition of the program. And today we'll be featuring 2 young ladies who are blazing the trail within their little spaces to do big things, the way I like to put it, right here on the program.
And finally, this week's edition of Morning Chapters focuses on, there you have it, my drama-free neighbor and me. And I think a lot of people can relate with this. Maybe it's the other way for a lot of people, but everyone has that neighbor, either drama-free or drama-full.
Drama-full.
So we'll be having a sit-down with the author, Silas Omoha, on the show today.
As a matter of fact, the ripple effect of the IBB's book, my journey in service, is affecting everyone. The man is going to be 84 sometime later.
August, is it?
I think 84. He's going to be 84, as mentioned.
Yeah.
But whether he came to provide answers and he left more questions, we don't know. Talking about age, today is Boala's birthday. Happy birthday to
yes, that's Daniel Boala.
Daniel Boala.
It's 50, right?
Yes, 50 years old.
Interesting. So, more interviews.
He's going to have 50 questions to answer on behalf of the government.
More interviews, more questions to answer. That's our wish for you, as well as good health and the very best.
All right, let's get to the dailies now to find out what they are saying exactly. Today, the program. Which paper do we start with?
I think naturally we should start with the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay.
Let's take a look at the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, and this is how the Nigerian Tribune leads this morning. Proposed taxes on free trade zone, $200 billion foreign investment may leave Nigeria. Nasima warns, says over 600,000 jobs at risk. What is this about? You know, some say it's sort of like a contradiction. You say free trade zone and there's proposed taxes, but the government has always said, well, the free trade zone itself is a wrong nomenclature, right, of what that place is. It's not like you will not pay taxes. I mean, who does business without paying taxes? And I remember that there's an agency in charge of free trade zones that explained what the nomenclature should actually be.
We should actually bring them to do that explainer.
In fact, we had a conversation with him. Our correspondent on Newsnight, Larry Lasisi, had a very interesting conversation with him, I think about a few weeks ago, where he had said, well, that free trade zone you people are calling it is causing trouble because it is not a free trade zone. Nobody calls it a free trade zone anywhere in the world again, okay? It is not a free trade zone. There will be taxes paid, but how much will this impact on the business? Because it's meant to be doing business in an easy way, and you're able to export easily. In fact, the agency in charge of it is not even called a free trade zone. It's an export processing agency, I think, something like that. So we'll see how this plays out, but that's the fear for a lot of people. It's on page 13 of the Nigerian Tribune. That's the big story, really, and it's a lot to chew on because Nigeria is eyeing more revenues, but some of these businesses are saying, can we even do more? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the jury will be out there at the end of the day, but these are the people of the game who are giving their own 2 cents on the matter. And I think if this kind of people are giving their 2 cents, they should be brought to the table to get their view. Don't ignore this level of these stakeholders as far as these issues are concerned. So I'm sure, but 600,000 jobs at risk, if that is correct, then something has to be done to reposition it as soon as possible. As far as the free trade zone area is concerned. So education is key. What can be done to keep businesses in Nigeria is the biggest conversation right now we should be having, not how businesses can leave the country. That is not a conversation. FDI is what we seek for. The federal government, all of the trips the president has been making is on the premise of getting businesses for us. So let's get to the Guardian newspaper and find out exactly what it's saying there. It leads with Afterthought, a journey in service, of course, our book, Afterthoughts of the Maradona. You know, that's how they refer to the former head of state. They say he's a Maradona because of the many times the data have been shifted in the transition program. Critics, as IBB shares June 12 blame. So they call him Maradona for the young people who are maybe 25 or even 32 who don't understand what it is. He set a transition program from military rule to civilian rule, but he didn't keep to the data, and he gave an explainer in those books from political structure, creation of states, to flawed presidential primaries and many, many excuses. But the big one, which everybody was looking at for, was June 12. What really happened? Well, he's blaming deep states for the annulment of that election. He's saying primarily, look, I did not annul that election. In fact, I was not consulted, but I take responsibility for that because I was the head of government. People are saying some people don't believe him, some people believe him, so I don't know what the jury is. You can get the book and read for yourself exactly as far as that particular June 12 issue is concerned. He blamed it on Abacha and his cohorts as far as June 12 is concerned. And Abacha is not yet to respond and answer for himself. So what do we do with that? Nigerians expected him to say, at least, I'm sorry. I'm sorry has never come out of the mouth of IBB. I take responsibility. I feel that Nigeria just want you to say they are sorry. Perhaps, I don't know whether that could pacify that.
He said it was taking an extreme national interest. I understand there was a tweet by someone who people believe is a grandchild of Abacha to that one. But one thing I still don't quite get is if this man who's been vilified a lot is really that bad. Do you know how many people were at that event, Jeffrey?
Yeah, Nigeria was at that event, by the way.
Both the businessmen, a lot of people hail and say, great man, they were at that event. And they credited where they are right now to his some of his actions.
Yeah, he opened up the private sector to a very large extent. We can give him that credit.
You know, a lot of people. So what exactly is going on? Is it that these people are also bad, or they don't see that the bad person that a lot of people see?
They're beneficiaries of the establishment.
Or is it because they are beneficiaries, so naturally they align with him? It's a lot of contradictions, but one thing you can't take away is the fact that a lot of people actually have a lot of good things to still say about him. So it's the contradiction of life sometimes. Someone who seems bad to you might be the best thing to another person. But what a lot of people are still talking about, as you said, Jeffrey, is a June 12 situation. But it looks like you'll never get what you expect, but it's an apology. It looks like this is the best explainer you get, at least from him so far.
So that's what people are saying. In one breath, you take responsibility. In another breath, you say you didn't know. At the end of the day, what he was trying to say in that book that I read, he's saying that it was between rescinding the annulment and installing MK Abiola and looking at the potential of a civil war, because these guys, they are crude and brutal, led by Abacha, according to him, that could kill him, kill Abiola, kill everybody that wants to go their way. So he decided to toe the line of his colleagues just for national interest. Is that explainer? Will it surface for the lives that were lost in Lagos and across the country? It's up to you to make up your mind. But he's told his own story. I think he's not ready to say beyond what he has said.
It's a
controversial figure, but
they put up a very interesting tweet of some of the books to expect in the future regarding what is happening now, what happened in the past. But the blueprint is next now, leads with the situation in Osun State. And you see tension in Osun as defiant Adeleke swears in LG chairs councillors. It was also interesting to see governors from other states in the area at that event. For me, I saw them and I thought, oh, another layer of security they brought another layer of security and, well, I say, stamp of credibility to that particular election, because a lot of people were afraid that things were going to go awry in terms of security. But when you had all the other state governors, you know, they come with their own security, and I'm not sure anybody would want to try anything fishy at that kind of event. So for me, it was more strategic, because I think
more solidarity as well.
Yes, solidarity, but the strategy also was, let's get in more security. Let's get in more big figures, more VIPs in that sense, so there won't be any issues regarding security. And we saw what happened. So that is a big story, but let me just show you this one. Nigeria saves $20 million daily from fuel subsidy removal. That's according to Oyedele. But the natural follow-up is, where is that money going to? Because if you do a calculation, Jeffrey, $20 million daily times 365 days.
Well, that's a lot. That's another conversation for another day. I leave it to that. This Nigeria is the last one we're looking at today. June 12, why I won't use the word sorry, IBB. I've told Nigerians that, look, I accept full responsibility. It is bigger to accept responsibility. You should see the event beyond the narrow word sorry. Memoir FG should pay 10 trillion naira reparation to Igbo over misleading 1966 coup insinuation over the years. So that's another part of that book that is quite controversial, when he tried to say, look, perhaps the coupists, if you will, started this as from a nationalist front to take charge of the country and restore it back to order, but it quickly snowballed into ethnic coloration and all of that. It gave some explainers to that effect. So because people have really tagged this for a long time, Igbo coup, but he gave his own explanation. So that kind of shifted ground for some people. Some are still hardlining and saying it is what it is. But whatever it is, these are some of the comments that are coming in from that book. As I said, this book looks like it's intended to provide answers, but it left more questions into the very controversial figure himself, former head of state, IBB, who is going to be 84, and he decided to put down his thought. One more person, in our view, that owes us a book as a country is the man who's, I think, at about 90 now, former head of state, Yakubu Gowon, is the person that led the country the longest, about 9 years or so, during the war, after the war, until he was removed in that Murtala Mohammed, replaced by Murtala Mohammed in that particular coup incident that occurred when he went to Kampala in Uganda for that AU conference. But it's not written about the civil war. I don't know whether he will write. I remember there was a video that actually popped up at some point asking Muhammadu Buhari to also write. Buhari said, I'm not going to write no book because I can't resist the urge of cursing some people. But it's them that did it, not their children. I don't want their children to be looked with the mirror of their own father. So I think leadership is quite critical. If you've led at that level, you owe the people a book, else people may say the person is not patriotic or intellectually lazy or whatever reason they will give. But I think it's important that you put your thoughts so that at least we get your own side of the story. IBB has put his own side of the story with June 12 and the 1966 coup, the counter coup, and all the coups, the Oka, the Dimka, his friends, issues around the coup, structural adjustment program, the big one, the June 12, and the interim national government. He's done what he thinks he's supposed to do in writing the book. Whether we believe him or not is a different ball game altogether. So perhaps you can get the book yourself and get a copy. It's quite clear in writing, so you understand exactly what he's saying and make up your mind at the end of the day. So that's what this Nigeria is saying. So about 5 days, or no, 3 or 4 days now, I should say, after that book was released, it's still generating controversy. All right, so we will leave the dailies for just a moment, and we'll come back for the big conversation. There was an election in Osun State, local government election in Osun State. You know, preceding that local government election, there was a violent clash between the APC and the PDP, because in 2022, when the incumbent took over and issues went to court as far as local government issues, elected local government officials, the chairman and the councillors were actually removed, and they went to court. They lost at the lower court, but they got an appeal court judgment not too long ago, and they decided, look, we've been reinstated, we need to take charge, and that caused a lot of problem between them and the caretaker local government chairman. But that was just before this local government election that occurred on Saturday. Now today, the APC has said, our chairman that was reinstated, go back and resume work. Well, the PDP is saying, we're not going to go to work, but we'll go through the courts. We'll get all sides to the conversation as much as possible right here on the program. But hey, that will not be all today on the program. Let's also bring you up to speed with what we've been tracking as far as the trends are concerned. I think we should start with NDLEA intercepting a Thai lady at a Lagos airport with UK-bound drug shipment concealed in walls of crated cartons. So look at that. We must give kudos to the NDLEA, the way they discover these things. So, there you have it. As a drug shipment. See, at face value, you think it was just carrying some vegetables, but at a closer look with the eagle eyes of the NDLEA, they've been at this for a very long time. To conceal and escape, they will somehow get to the person. So I can count from here 1, 2, 3, 4, I think about 6 of the parcels there that have been concealed. Wow. The extent to which people go just to move these drugs is just brave. Well, the bravery will end this person in jail. It's a Thai lady from not a Nigerian at the Lagos airport. So, Olubunmi the Honorable Minister for Interior, talking about, I think that should be the moment announcing the termination of the visa on arrival policy, giving some explainers as to why that decision came through. But let's read your thoughts as quickly as possible. Tega says, Nigeria is still Nigeria. The importation of foreign rice has been banned, yet we still have foreign rice in the market. How did they make their way to Nigerian markets? I don't know how that is related to the issue of visa on arrival, but I'm sure you know what you're saying. Let's go to Peter K. Ebong. He said the portal was a total mess because a lot of immigration officers had access to the back end, to which with $150 you got a visa on arrival and the money never went to the state. It was just a total mess. So it was a good thing to open up the Nigerian space and the Nigerian environment to people who are coming for leisure and business to come and do whatever it is they came for legally, which is a practice a couple of people around the world do. But perhaps it's been messed up by who we do not know, but people are alleging that some officials have gotten access to the back end. But the authorities will be able to tell us. Let's take a listen. Maybe this time we can hear Olubunmi Ojo on this one. Well, we thought we could get you that excerpt from the minister himself, giving the background and explainer to the decision. But let's go to Fair and Just Man, best interior minister ever in the history of Nigeria. He's awarding him. The amazing part is that he achieves all this without any noise. This gentleman, I guess you wanted to say, is my assurance that there are still intelligent and smart people in Nigeria. So those are your thoughts as far as the issue of the visa on arrival in Nigeria is concerned. I'm sure they are going to review the policy, but perhaps they ought to do some basic housekeeping to to ensure that this is as transparent and as easy as possible. But let's head down to what's going on in Osun State. You've been tweeting about it, perhaps allow me to say tweet, but posting on X is the right language now, where the governor says the local government's chairman who have just been elected to avoid the secretariat, to avoid what happened perhaps last week, Monday, where there was a fracas and even death, where it resulted to death, where about 6 people, I think, died, according to police reports, and several other people injured. Jahil Jim said this has become necessary, especially as the council secretariats are expected to be under lock and key due to the withdrawal of service announced by the workers of the Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, NOGE, across the state.
Take a look at Olaifa's comment, and they're saying that the same security agencies you claimed or has been taken over by former Governor Oyetola. Okay, it says nobody should die because of your inaction. This user is saying or claiming that this is highly avoidable. So I'm trying to get the context of this, how this really aligns. But hey, everybody has their opinions to put out. See.
Royal Princess 001 says, did APC also lose members? I think you should also condole their family since you are the governor of them all. May peace return to the land of Osun.
Okay, so not to worry, we're getting deep into that conversation on the show this morning to feel the pulse of the people, see if peace has been reached just yet or if there's still, you know, some sort of flashpoints ahead. But take a look at this next talking point, and it was raised on the front page of one of the dailies. That's Ohaneze Digbo, the Igbo Apex Group, demanding an apology and 10 trillion naira as compensation from President Bola Tinubu to the Igbos after IBB revealed that the 1966 coup was not an Igbo coup. And, you know, for a lot of people, that was perhaps one of the biggest revelations from that book, at least from the perspective of IBB. So Ohaneze is following suit, saying, don't just stop at that. We demand an apology and 10 trillion naira as compensation. Who will this be paid to if indeed this is considered? How will this work? Well, we're not quite sure, but let's take a look at the comments. Omoya says, following the recent IBB revelations about the coup, the Apex Group, that's Ohaneze, should have unequivocally demanded an Igbo presidency and Kanu's immediate release rather than an apology and 10 trillion naira compensation. So is this sarcasm or?
Perhaps he's saying the demand should be different. So, because it's been, the reason I perhaps think that that person is saying what he's saying is because it's almost, some people speculate that it's almost an unwritten rule to have an Igbo man being president is going to be an impossibility or difficult, even though the Constitution allows everybody to vie for office and all of that. But what IBB said in the book, for those who haven't read the book or bought the book, is the fact that it didn't start as an Igbo coup, but perhaps the casualties and the personalities involved in the casualty, because people died on both sides. But when you looked at it, nothing happened in the eastern part of Nigeria and all of that. But he puts it on record that this gentleman did not start out, it was more nationalist in the outlook, but perhaps ended up with ethnic coloration. So that's why that record has been put together after all of this. So that is IBB's views. Whether you agree or don't agree, it's a different kettle of fish, but people have started reacting. So it's going to elicit more reactions in the coming days, perhaps weeks. But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to our very first conversation for the day. Osun State is yet again in the news for the second week. Let's find out what it is. Already know. Join us again. Welcome back. Let's get to that very conversation that has to do with Osun State. The elections have held on Saturday, organized by the state government, and now there is a bit of, I'm not sure how to describe it, so a little background that we've explained. Last week there was an incident, if you've been following Osun politics, where Some local government chairmen that were removed in 2022 were reinstated by the appeal court. Now, that was a controversial issue because the APC and the PDP had different outlook to that judgment. APC said they were reinstated, PDP said there was no enforceable order of the court. Well, at the end of the day, there was a fracas. 6 people died on both sides. Now, for the APC, actually, the officials went and they've resumed their jobs at the local government secretariat. But that was just a few days before the local government election organized by the state government. Now the state government has organized a local government election on Saturday and have even sworn in local government chairmen. So now we have reinstated local government chairmen, newly elected local government chairmen who are meant to resume today. That is the situation we found ourselves in Osun State. Well, the PDP has said, stay away from the local government secretary, we'll follow this to the court. But the people who are in the face of all of this are here to respond to what this means for all of us as far as Osun politics is concerned. Hashim Abioye is the chairman of the Osun State Independent Electoral Commission. He joins us via Zoom from Osogbo, the Osun State capital. Also joining us right here in our Lagos today, he was here last week, Remy Omoye. Is an APC member in Osun State and Executive Director of Project Implementation, Federal Housing Authority in Nigeria, in our Lagos City. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, viewers at home.
So let me start with you, Mr. Abioye, Chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission in the state. So tell us exactly what you make of the situation we've now found ourselves in Osun State.
Well, thank you very much and good morning. I will say that some actors have not been honest with the situation on ground. If you want to know the true situation on ground, we should come from the background of the judgment of the courts. We are not talking about just one judgment. Let's forget about the APC or the APP or the PDP here. Let us talk about the Osun State Independent Electoral Commission itself. OSEC itself had 2 judgments hanging on its neck. And these 2 judgments nullified the election conducted by OSEC in 2022. Now, the APC was a party to the 2 judgments, and they were able to scale through in one of the judgments at the Court of Appeal. When the Court of Appeal struck out the suit filed in order for them to have their way one way or the other. The court struck out that suit and there was no more. But there was another judgment of the court which nullified the election conducted by OSEC in 2022. That was the judgment of the APP. And it is still a hook on the neck of the Osun State Independent Electoral Commission. That means OSEC did not conduct any meaningful or lawful election in 2022. And more to this, was the judgment of the High Court of Osun State, which recognized that there were vacancies in the 30 local government area of Osun State and that we should go ahead to fill the vacancies. So if we are talking about the lawfulness of the election we conducted or the reality of the issue on ground, I think the Attorney General of the Federation can assist a lot. The courts have done their own. The Attorney General of the Federation can assist a lot. Fine. He has used his exalted office to render an opinion on the PDP APC's matter. I want the Attorney General of the Federation and I want people of reason in the country to please appeal to the Attorney General of the Federation to please give us an opinion on the judgment of the Federal High Court in the APP's matter, which nullified the election conducted by OSEC in 2022, and against which the appeal filed by the APC was dismissed on the 13th January 2025. Let us have his opinion on this. We will have a better situation on ground, and I think peace will return to the state if he can use his exalted office to assist us in this situation. Right. And I need to say this, that this is like the Solomonic wisdom. When 2 ladies were fighting over a baby and one said, cut the baby into 2, and the other one said, no, instead of cutting the baby into 2, let the baby live. give the baby to this person. And that was where you will know who owns the baby. Someone said we will take over the secretariat at all costs, forcefully, whatever it takes.
All right, Mr. Abio, just a moment. Let's bring it to the Lagos State. Mr. Moy, you've listened to him, and I know you have a position, and the party actually has a position as far as this is concerned. Your party has released a statement to say your local government chairman should resume. Let's just get your initial take on what is playing out. I just want the perspective generally.
All right, thank you very much. I think you were a bit biased in your introduction. You introduced me as APC chieftain. Hashim is a card-carrying member and the chieftain of PDP, contested for House of Assembly in a fellow local government, so I need to clear that.
When did he contest?
When did he contest?
A few years ago.
But he's the chairman of OCEC.
You didn't introduce him well.
I don't know him to be a member of the APC.
I'm telling you,
so you don't
everybody knows. You're a journalist, you should have done your findings.
No, we've asked him.
Hashim is a card-carrying member of PDP, so I need to make that clear.
No, just a moment.
On this program right now, Kayode, hold on. On this program right now, as far as the election, is it the chairman of the Electoral Commission? I just want you to answer. Just hold on.
Introduce me as ED. No, you introduce me as executive director.
And a member of the APC.
And a member of the APC. So I'm telling you, Hashim is a member of the PDP. So let's leave that conversation.
No. We won't leave it. We won't leave it. Is he the chairman of OCEC or not?
Am I the executive director of FHA?
But you get the point, right?
You also got my point, right?
So that is immaterial right now for me. So respond to the question.
I'm sorry, we need to just bounce this off because you just impugned on the person
of
my colleague first.
It's a known fact.
So, let's ask him. Are you a card-carrying member of a PDP?
I am not. I am not. I put up the.
When did you resign? When did you resign your membership of a PDP?
I resigned my membership as far as September 2024.
Okay, September 2024. So, Mr. Mowaye.
The chairman of OCEC resigned his membership of PDP last year.
So, do you agree you were wrong for saying my colleague was biased?
No, I'm not.
You said he was biased. I didn't introduce
he told you he has resigned.
So we needed to withdraw that because he's no more.
He told you people that he has resigned.
So he's no more a member of a PDP.
But that tells you
he has told
now,
you he has resigned.
You have to take this thing.
No, you made it.
No, you're making a statement on me, which is not fair.
No.
The man is the chairman. Just hold on, Mr. Moy. Just hold on.
How would you feel if they tell you the chairman of INEC was once a member of APC?
Mr. Moy, it's not an action. This is not a conversation.
All you tell me is you don't know. He was never a member of APC.
It's not a conversation, so you don't tell me what I should do or should not do. You don't tell me that now, Mr. Moy. So just respond to the question, please.
Okay. I've made my point clear on that. These local government chairmen were sacked November 27. Issuing an executive order based on the November 25th Federal Court judgment. PDP went to court. They won at the Federal Court. And those local government chairmen were sacked based on that judgment because the governor issued an executive order issuing on that judgment. The APP judgment is talking about came on the 30th November 2022. So those local government chairmen had been sacked before then. We were displeased. And what was the only thing we could do? The only thing we could do at that time was to approach a higher court. We were in that court for about 3 years, about 2.5 years or thereabout. And the Court of Appeal gave an express judgment. I was here last week when you read the judgment. He said the appeal is meritorious and allowed. It did not say allowed in parts. It did not say dismiss. So the Court of Appeal made the case so clear. And you know the interesting thing is, if you don't understand the judgment of the Court of Appeal, or you have an issue, you won't go to a lower court. Now you went back to a lower court. In that judgment, you read that day, the Court of Appeal lambasted OCEC for the role they played in all this thing. You are talking about an APP judgment. A judgment that there was a ruling to dismiss this appeal because of what term do they use now? And as I speak to you, that appeal, there's a motion for that appeal to release it. Because there was no full judgment, it was just a ruling that the people that brought this appeal abandoned it. and they have filed a motion to release it. So that has nothing to do with what is on ground. What is clear is there's a there's a court of appeal judgment based on the reason why they were sacked. They were sacked November 27th based on the November 25th judgment against APC. And APC went to the court of appeal. And the court of appeal said, you people should come back to office. And in issues like this, the Osun State caucus of the House of Rep, the PDP members, call on the Speaker and the Attorney General of the Federation that want you to interpret this judgment. In the case of Edo, the Attorney General came and said, no, APC governor, you cannot ask these people to go. They came back to office. Nobody raised eyebrow. In the case of the APC, the PDP caucus in the House of Rep of Osun said, AGF, explain this to us. And as the chief law officer of the country, he gave his clear opinion. So I'm shocked that after he gave his opinion, PDP claimed they went to a lower court to vacate a full judgment of the Court of Appeal. That is not done anywhere.
So, Mr. Mawai, which local government are you from?
I'm from Elisha West local government.
So, who's your local government chairman?
Segun Olabode.
Of what party?
Of the APC.
So, you don't regard what happened over the weekend?
I come from Elisha West, Ward 6, Unit 2. I had pinhole cameras on that Saturday. There was no IOT, there was nothing.
There was no election?
There was no election now.
Okay, so let's ask him then. So, Mr. Abioye, this has been said time and again. Installed. So, where did you say you're from again?
Unit West, Ward 6, Unit 2.
So, Mr.
I
Abioye,
had a pinhole camera for the whole period.
All right. So, Mr. Abioye, you just heard him. He said he had a pinhole camera. Where did the election hold that day? Maybe for his word, if you're not able to speak to it. But for those who are saying, where did this election hold? And I know you had said that even the security operatives locked the state electoral office, locked you out. So, how did this process happen?
Well, thank you very much for whatever it is. Remy has said what he wanted to say, and it's usual to attack. So it is not our concern now. Our concern is about the lives of the people. Ask Remy about the judgment of the Federal High Court of 30th November 2022, which sacked the APC purported elected official. You know, I was not the OSEC chairman then. And the judgment was appealed by the APC to the Court of Appeal. They did not file any brief of argument. They did not transmit any record with respect to that appeal. The Court of Appeal now dismissed that appeal. A decision of any court, even if the court sneezes, it is a decision. Are you telling me that the decision of the Court of Appeal of 13 January 2025 was not a decision, was not binding on you? Now he admitted that they had now gone back to the court to have that appeal relisted. I want to know the basis upon which the appeal will be relisted, on the basis of which brief of argument, on the basis of which record of appeal. So they were trying to downplay the other judgment which hooked them in the neck. And someone gave an analysis that a snake bit you at 2 spots. You were able to extract the venom from 1 spot. The other spots, if you have not extracted the venom, that person will still die. Now, going back to the issue of the election, we had the intel of the security threats, and that the move by some people from the top to have our office sealed. So we distributed election materials far ahead of the day of the election. So when they came to seal up, we have a very good relationship with the security chiefs in the state. They will not say that I've done anything wrong to them. They have been securing our premises, only for them to turn against us on the day of the election, the day before the election. But that was not a problem at all. The election went on successfully. And you will see that in your reports, and from what were available on the day of the election, from the available fact, you will see that some of our officials were arrested. As I'm talking to you, as I'm speaking this morning, some of these officials are still in the custody of the police for no offense other than being our ad hoc staff. And police were cutting away some of our election materials, cubicles, ballot boxes, and all that. not for anything other than that we conducted election lawfully, sanctioned by the courts.
So for his own word that he says election did not hold,
says
what
have gone through the legitimate process. This was an election that we gave notice of over a year ago. They did not do anything to it until a week before the election, and they started all this.
Mr. Bioye, just to speak to his own question pointedly, he says that election did not hold in his own ward. In his own ward, what may have happened?
Election held in his ward, and results were declared.
Well, Mr. Mawai, he says election held.
You saw a reporter who said election held in only 2 polling units. That's where the governor voted and where the speaker voted. And you saw reports from other broadcast stations and how the newspapers reported it. The elections went on freely and fairly and peacefully. Nobody died.
Mr. Mawai, so the pinhole camera that you installed, was it facing somewhere else? What exactly happened? Because it said that election,
well, it was
held.
Where I vote is called Akata, is a Fort Junction. So it was the entire place.
Please, let's temper our words and just speak to the issues here. If you have contrary evidence that election held, you bring it. Your evidence, we have to see it as well. But he says election held.
Okay, let me explain this to you. We have about 3,000 polling units in Osun. There were a lot of journalists on the field that day. There's a particular journalist that reported that the information he got is that voting was concluded before 7 a.m. There's a particular journalist. There is a candidate of Zenith Labour Party that got to where she wanted to vote. She didn't see anybody. She did a video. Candidate of Labour Party got to where he wanted to vote. He said, there's nobody here. These videos will make it available. They are everywhere. We planted a lot of pinhole cameras.
And your pinhole too?
Yes, we have planted a lot of them. Not because we know there was going to be an election. There was no vacancy have been issued, but we just wanted the outside world to know the kind of person we are dealing with in Osun. I'm glad Azim agreed that he claimed that he resigned as a PDP member September last year, and is the one conducting the election. So that tells you a lot of things. For me, we have about 3,000 polling units. We have 1.95 million registered voters in Osun. He claimed that 60% of the people came to vote, which is 1.17 million. It's not possible. There was no voting. It was just a charade they did on Saturday. And there's no vacancy have been issued, so they just wasted Osun's money. If you look at the Court of Appeal judgment, they lambasted OSIEC, the 3 judges. So it's quite unfortunate that we find ourselves in this situation in Osun, but we don't want this to distract us. Our chairman had resumed back to work, and we had promised the people of Osun dividends of good governance. And the leader of the party in the state, Chief Adebisi Akande, and His Excellency Boyego Itola, had mandated them that we want good governance at the grassroots. So going back and forth, it's not possible for a lower court to vacate the judgment of the Court of Appeal. So there's no basis for us again back and forth. But one thing I can tell you is there was nothing called the election on Saturday. It was just drama. I started on the platform yesterday that it's what they call our Dakeri. I've ruled out some statistics now. These videos, evidence are there. There were a lot of journalists talking to correspondents.
Mr. Abio is going to respond, but there's something I want you to speak to. You've raised issues about a court that they went to, which is lower court, to trying to set aside the judgment of the higher court. Everybody knows how that plays out, but he's also raised another Court of Appeal judgment that they said the APC is looking away from. I wanted you to respond to that as well.
I explained that earlier. Let me read, for the sake of emphasis. November 25th, there was a judgment in favor of PDP. November 25th, 2022, there was a judgment in favor of PDP against APC. November 27th, Governor Dima sacked those local government chairmen using executive order, inching it on that November 25th judgment, which was against APC in favor of PDP. November 30, after they had been sacked, there was a judgment for APP. Now, everybody went to the Court of Appeal. In the case of APP, the Court of Appeal ruled that you abandoned this case.
You abandoned the case, APP?
No. APC was joined to the suit. We were not the original person that went to the court for that. We had our own appeal. And we went to court to relist it. January 23rd, 2025. By February 3rd, in our own case, there was a substantive judgment in the Court of Appeal. So even if you have issues with two Court of Appeal judgments, it is not a lower court that will interpret it. So it's clear. There's a full judgment in favor of APC from the Court of Appeal. He's a lawyer, understand that he's a lawyer. So if he is challenged with the interpretation, what he should do is approach the higher court, which is the Supreme Court. We don't have to go back to a lower court. It is not done anywhere, and it cannot stand.
Let's begin to look at what is the way forward. Let me start with you, Mr. Abioye. Right now, we have two people, the APC, of course, reinstated, and then the PDP this time as far as the issue of the election is concerned. If you, from OCX's point of view, from a lawyer's point of view, I understand you're a lawyer, what is the next line of action to avoid any form of incident going forward? Because all eyes are on the State Secretariat today.
Yes, thank you very much. Let me emphasize this. I resigned my membership of the PDP in 2023, not 2024. That's one. Secondly, the issue of reinstatement did not arise at all. Court of Appeal did not reinstate any local government official. This was an election that was conducted under the APC's administration using yes or no, 60 days notice as against 360 days. So that is the second one. The third issue is the way forward is that APP's judgment, which sacked them on the 30th November 2022 and was appealed against by them, and they abandoned the appeal, and the Court of Appeal dismissed that appeal. There was already a pronouncement of the Court of Appeal on that decision dismissing their appeal. So it's now telling me that because they did not pursue their appeal and the Court of Appeal dismissed their decision and their appeal, that decision, because they did not pursue it, was not binding on them. Remy is only joking. These people are only joking. They have subjected...
All right, Mr. Abioye, because of time, my apologies. Mr. Remy, so you can respond, so we can wrap the conversation up.
Okay, thank you very much.
I was going to say the way forward quickly. Just one line from Mr. Abioye. The way forward quickly. I know you were going to make that point, Mr. Abioye. What's the way forward? Just one line.
The way forward is for the Attorney General of the Federation to look at the APP's judgment and give us an opinion. That is the way forward. Please let us press it on the Attorney General of the Federation.
All right.
Well, I need to congratulate Ashim. He will go down the history as the first person to conduct election for sit-at-home council chairman and councillor. You know, the governor has asked them to sit at home, so they've succeeded in doing a sit-at-home.
No, Rivers State also had the same thing. The governor told them they can work.
But they've been going to office.
No, when they came in, they said they can work from home.
They can work from
home. This one did not say they should work from home. Look at the statement, though. Don't go to office. So they are sit-at-home.
No, it's work from home. It happened in Rivers. So I'm just saying that you should update that your award.
Well, let's go to our, so that we don't lose. There's a clear judgment. The APP judgment, we are not a member of APP, I'm not from APP. We were joined to that suit. And I told you that case had been, there's a motion to release it. So what that means is the case is still alive. But there's already a substantive judgment that we took to Court of Appeal. So there's no need for us to go back and forth. You are saying the Attorney General should do an opinion. The Attorney General came up and did opinion that based on the law, this is the situation. You still went ahead to do election, going to a lower court to vacate a full judgment of the Court of Appeal. I need to also tell you this. What they went to do at the lower court, the ruling was given within 3 days. Everything within 3 days. So, but that's not even the point. The point is these people were sacked based on the judgment on 25th. And on the 7th November, they were sacked.
What's the way forward, Mr.
No, the way forward is we have resumed. The way forward is we are going to provide dividend of democracy. When Governor Adeleke came in, he sacked 1,500 teachers paid from the local government coffers and 2,000 health workers paid from the local government and never replaced them. So the local government chairman had given pronouncement to reinstate those people. So we want to just give good governance.
Right.
We want our people to get dividend of democracy. So going back and forth is not an issue. I don't expect him to take side. He's supposed to be an umpire, but since he decided to take side, I mean, good luck to him.
All right, Remy Omoye, APC member, Executive Director, Project Implementation, Federal Housing Authority, Hashim Abioye, Chairman of the Osun State Independent Electoral Commission. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I wish you the very best.
Who resigned 2022 or 2023 or 2024? It's important we emphasize that.
You can take the argument to him after the show. we just do what we have to do, Mr. Remy. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll bring you further conversation right here on the program. Join us again.
Let's do a quick check on your health. We've talked about the health of Osun State, right? Yeah, but we're not leaving you out. And we just want to have a quick conversation about your health because we understand that for you to be productive, for you to be effective and efficient, your health has to be the very best. But there's been this very silent killer, some have described it, self-medication. It's very silent. It's just those things you do here and there. You have a little headache, you have a little pain, or you have a so-called malaria, and people just go out there, get medication. And you see the pharmacies sometimes also just give you some of these medications. Some others have to be prescribed by doctors, but more often than not, you have people still self-medicating. What are the dangers? This is going to serve as a reminder yet again of the dangers around self-medication. We're joined by a general practitioner from Birmingham, United Kingdom, Dr. Osun Okorebi, joining us virtually today. Good morning, Dr. Okorebi. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I know that there is a stark difference between what obtains there and what obtains here. For example, with antibiotics, right? I know that medications, you can't just go to the pharmacy or to the chemist and just get off the counter. It has to be prescribed. Some people can get a balance. For some people, they say, well, that slows down the process of medication there. But some say, well, it safeguards the health of a patient, ensures that you don't abuse these drugs. So I know that you have an understanding of both claims. How do you marry them together to get the very best practice?
Right. I mean, when it comes to self-medicating, you're absolutely right. In different locations and parts of the world, different things are obtainable. So, for example, in countries in Europe or America, for example, you cannot get some types of medications over the counter, as we call it, or without a doctor's prescription. But then there are some certain medications that you can get over the counter. So your simple pain relief like paracetamol, ibuprofen, and things like that. You can get those without a doctor's prescription. And one of the reasons that is done is because they are trying to make patients take responsibility for their health. And of course, if you then have something more serious, you would need to speak to either your general practitioner or your doctor to get advice on what kind of medications to take. Now, this is slightly different back home in Nigeria, where you can get almost anything over the counter from the chemist or from the pharmacy. You can get antibiotics, you can get pain relief, you can get diabetic medication, you can get everything without a doctor's prescription. All you need to do is to know the name of the medication. So this becomes a challenge because people then take decisions into their hands to make diagnoses for themselves following a number of symptoms that they experience, and they can walk up to the pharmacy based on that diagnosis that they have made, get medication, and then start treating themselves. So they don't know, one, if the diagnosis is correct, because they are then stepping into more complex territory. So we've left the simple headache or the simple migraines, the simple joint pains, to maybe things like feeling generally tired, having chest pain, having abdominal pain, especially if this problem becomes a recurrent problem. They then move to making their own diagnosis and, of course, going to the pharmacy, getting medications for themselves and start treating themselves. And that's where self-medication comes into play, which is essentially taking medication to treat ailments without prescription or without professional guidance.
So in your view, what do you think makes people resort to self-medication? Is it inability to access quality health care, or just the concern that if I get to the hospital, I don't want to find out what I'm afraid of? Or what exactly? There should be a reason, a driving force as far as that issue is concerned. What in your practice have you found out this to be?
Absolutely. Again, it's different for different climates and different locations. So when I practiced in Nigeria, it was clear that people would rather present late to healthcare facilities for different reasons, which includes the cost of, consulting a doctor, the monies that you would have to pay for, medication in a hospital, as opposed to what you would get simply from going to the pharmacy. And like you rightly said also, some people are not just bothered about their health. Some other people are afraid to find out that there's something even more serious, wrong with them. So they'll rather do it themselves and manage their problems themselves. And so the health-seeking behavior in Nigeria is below average. So most people, a study done, across the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria a few years ago showed that at least 70% of people would choose to manage their health problems themselves, as opposed to consulting a doctor. So they would self-medicate first before they approach a doctor. And of course, cost is a big factor. This is completely different in a country like the United Kingdom, where I currently practice, where at the slightest symptom, patients will be at your door knocking, seeking for a consultation. Yes, health system in a country like this, or health care in a country like this, is completely free. So whether that's abused or not, or whether patients are using it, irresponsibly, that's a different matter at all. But with the slightest symptom, you have patients seeking your advice. So I think cost is a very big issue. I think access, to healthcare is also a very big issue, and also lack of education as well, which is why talks like this are very important. People don't know that if you've got problems with your health, you should not take responsibility into your hands. You should seek professional advice.
So when do you seek professional advice, or when do you go to the surgery? I know in the UK, surgery also means a physician's, office. It also means, I think, a meeting with a member of parliament. I don't want to get into that confusion this morning. But when should you visit your physician? So you feel a headache, you can self-medicate then, maybe. Or you feel some other symptoms, can you self-medicate? When should you really visit, so people know what to do when they feel what?
Right. So WHO talks about responsible self-medicating, which is essentially, taking medications to treat yourself for short duration, for simple ailments, according to what that prescription has, or that medication has been made for, which is safe and effective. So to answer your question, when you have a simple ailment, which is of a short duration, for example, I've had a headache for the last 2 days and I've taken some paracetamol, or I can take some paracetamol at that point. I've had a headache for a few days, I can take some ibuprofen. I've been at work all day, and my back is hurting for the first time, first couple of days, I can take some pain medication. My knee is hurting because I went to play ball, I can rub some ibuprofen gel on it. Now, there's something that we normally see on television when most over-the-counter medications are advertised. They say if symptoms persist, consult your doctor. So firstly, when simple ailments persist, when simple ailments become chronic, it's an indication to consult your doctor. When you feel generally unwell in yourself, so you're unable to carry out your normal day-to-day activity. You cannot go to work. You cannot do the normal household chores that you would do. That's gone from simple to more complex. That's an indication to consult your doctor. When you have a chronic health problem, so things like hypertension, diabetes, you've had a heart attack previously. So any chronic problem that you have is an indication for you to regularly consult your doctor, because those are not problems that you should handle by yourself.
There you go. We've not even touched on some people who don't even consider doctors. They go to their herbs. That's where they self-medicate. But we're totally out of time. We just wanted to raise this conversation yet again for people out there. We've been speaking with Dr. Essien Okorobi, general practitioner from Birmingham, UK. Thank you for your time. Wish you the very best today, whether you're going to surgery or what have you. All the best.
Thank you.
We'll switch gears now to security. Jeffrey.
Yes, let's talk security from health. Let's bring in our guest, the Chief of Defense Operations, Major General Emeka Onumajuru. He joins us from our Abuja studio. General, thank you so much for coming on the program and good to see you.
Thank you very much. Good to hear from you. Thank you.
All right, General, let's begin with what I call an update of the activities of the different theater commands and some of the successes recorded so far, because sometimes all we read are just this has been neutralized, this set of hostages have been released by the troops and all of that. So let's get specific empirical data of the success level since 2025 started. Today is 24th of February, if you have that data in your hand.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be here again. And also thank you for your interest in national security discourse to the benefit of Nigerians. I remain appreciative. As always, I want to acknowledge our troops in the front line for the good jobs they are doing and to urge them to keep on doing more, keep on executing the mandate for the benefit of Nigerians. Now back to your question. Of course, there have been several successes recorded across all theaters of operations. If you go to the Northeast Theater, for instance, you will find out there's much more security. Communities at risk are being protected. And because the communities at risk are protected, people are conducting their normal daily activities. And also the main adversary, BHE and ISWAP, have also been degraded to the extent that it is much more difficult to conduct standoff operations against troops and government locations. Against troops and government locations. And degrading their capabilities directly on the line of defeating the adversary. So that is why we'll prioritize offensive operations to first degrade the adversaries. And by degrading them, we've been able to open the socio-economic space. Roads are being opened. Most roads that before now either closed or needed escort of troops are being plied up to international roads between Cameroon to Nigeria to Cameroon. Markets are also being opened. The Baga fish market, for instance, one of the biggest fresh fish markets in the sub-region, is fully open and operating very well.
All right.
If you go to the Northwest, hello, I can't hear you very well.
Yeah, you can land on that point, Northwest particularly now. You wanted to talk about the Northwest.
Can you come again, please?
I said you were just going to talk about the Northwest. You can land on that before I put in my next question, General.
In the Northwest, the same thing too is happening. I always give an instance that before now, the Zaria, Funtua, Guzwa Road, there are always reports of attacks. But as you speak, for the past 2-3 months, that road is completely free. 100% free, day and night, there are traffic and no attacks. And the reason is because the military is fully on the offensive in those areas. And the road is free. Of course, you are aware that several key bandit leaderships in the Northwest have been decimated. And because they are decimated, their ability to operate as per before have also been reduced. Several kidnapped victims have been rescued. Those are all indices and signs of success in the Northwest.
Right.
About a month ago, we heard about the Lakarawa group, and the armed forces started immediately by establishing a special operation brigade to conduct operations in the affected local governments in Sokoto State. Of recent, you can agree that that have almost been wiped out. There have been a lot of, the noise have gone. So the successes are very visible, very tangible.
All right,
That's
General.
why I keep commending our troops in the front line for the good jobs they are doing.
And we certainly join you in commending them for the work and, in a lot of cases, sacrifice that they're given for the safety of Nigeria and Nigerians. I'd like you to speak to this incident in North Central now, because I know you talked about the Northwest and Northeast. But in Niger State last week, we understand that for 3 days, terrorists, locally known as bandits, ransacked more than 24 villages across 3 local governments in the state, killing no fewer than 8 locals and kidnapping many others. And a lot of people are still concerned about the brazen nature of some of these attacks, particularly in areas where are not ungoverned in that sense. You have some sort of military presence not too far away. So perhaps you might want to give us an insight and the aftermath. I know that the military swung into action afterwards, but perhaps give us the insight into why we still see these brazen attacks and for how long we'll keep seeing them.
Yes, thank you for bringing the North Central into perspective. Niger State, there are ongoing challenges in the Shiroro General area that is acknowledged. But however, the armed forces have been able to maintain dominance and control using the Nigerian Air Force in the Shiroro General area. Definitely there will be 1 or 2 incidents, but 1 or 2 incidents doesn't translate or does not reduce the impact of ongoing operations. Warfare, like you know, there are reverses, quite all right. There are lone wolves, there are lone incidents, but the lone incident doesn't undermine the huge successes that are recorded. What we are doing is to continue to use technology, continue to use the instrument of the Nigerian Air Force to increase dominance in that huge area. Of course, you're aware that Niger State is very, very large, about the largest state in the country. So maintaining physical presence, deploying troops in the entire state in itself is a challenge. But we're applying technology, applying the Air Force to make sure that areas that are really at risk are being dominated. That we hope will be able to address the security challenges, while we'll continue to deploy more ground troops to mop up.
All right, General, one of the things, we're here to look at some of the good work that the armed forces is doing, but one of the things we need to discuss is motivation and remuneration and welfare, which I want you to speak to on the background of to the effect that not too long ago, I know ex-servicemen had actually, I think, went to the Ministry of Finance, I think one of those ministries, to protest, I think, pensioners. They were really not happy with the state of things as far as their monies are concerned. We've also seen videos some time ago about some gentleman who, due to the inflation and the harshness of the economy, had reportedly said he was going back home but couldn't get transport to go back home from one of the theaters of operation. I want you to speak to whether there has been, with the increase in the budgetary allocation to about 4 trillion naira of that ministry, the Ministry of Defense, what the remuneration is right now, what percentage increase have been recorded, and how effective has this been? Because their motivation is key to keep their morale boosted.
Thank you. I think I want to assure Nigerians upfront that the armed forces prioritize veterans' welfare. the armed forces prioritize veterans' welfare. Not just veterans, even wounded in action soldiers, those that are sick. They are prioritized. And the reason is simple, like you alluded. Those serving draw inspiration from how veterans, from how wounded in actions are treated. If they are well treated, you find out that that morale translates to the front lines and vice versa. And the armed forces leadership clearly prioritize these issues. And I can tell you that the armed forces have one of the best and functional pension schemes, at least within the public sector. Now, there may be challenges in terms of late release of funds, but the pension board works very hard to ensure that pensioners are paid as at when due. And to the best of my knowledge, I can assure you that the pension board is keeping to this mandate and ensuring that pensioners get their funds when paid. There might be one or two problems here and there, particularly in terms of maybe verification, having the right details, having the right bank numbers and all that. That may delay one or two payments. But the majority of pensioners get paid as at when due.
Right, because it's important to ask these questions. It's what determines the kind of effort they put in, or at least whether or not they are assured that if anything happens, at least life will be fair to them or to their family members in that eventuality. But let's go back to the theater of sorts. What a lot of people don't particularly like is this sort of back and forth between, it would seem now, between the military and Bello-Turji particularly. So the military gets close, takes out some of his commanders, in quote, and then he sort of responds and says, here I am, still alive. Or in even some cases, we understand he's imposing some 20+ million naira levy in Sokoto State. I believe it's on the deputy governor's village or something of sort. And you just wonder, and I mean, Bello-Turji and the Nigerian military, it doesn't measure up. So what exactly is still going on with Bello-Turji? How is he able to evade the military's operations and onslaught to the extent of now even imposing fines, as we hear, on the community?
Yes, thank you. First, I need to let you know that there's absolutely no forth and back between Bello-Turji and the armed forces. No forth and back. As I speak, Bello-Turji is hiding. He's completely in hiding. And the armed forces is tracking him. The armed forces continuously tracks him. And very soon he will be eliminated.
Are you saying that you know where he is right now?
More of
General?
perception.
When you say you're tracking him, are you saying you know where he is right now?
Tracking him, yes. His movements are being tracked. His movements are being tracked. That I wouldn't discuss further. But very soon, he will be eliminated. Tracking a bandit leadership, tracking an asymmetric leadership, at times takes time. It's just for us to be patient. For us to be patient, all Nigerians to be patient on these issues, and the positive results will soon come. Now, I was talking about Bello-Turji imposing fines. Remember, I did talk about protecting vulnerable communities. Now, the communities need to believe that the armed forces is protecting them. Communities need to believe that. And when they believe that, it's a question of calling anybody that asks you to pay protection money or ransom bluff, because the armed forces is here to protect you. So I want to urge the communities through your medium now, do not accede to requests for protection levy in whatever form, because we'll have troops who guarantee farm security, who open the space for you to go about your normal activities.
General, I just got curious when you say call terrorist bluff. As much as we understand the power and the sovereignty of the Nigerian state, what assurances are you giving, and which communities are you talking about here? Because these people have been, buffeted almost in perpetuity for years by these miscreants, this element that are terrorizing our communities and even killing them, and asking them to call bluff. What assurances are you giving them?
The assurance we are giving is that we'll have troops deployed who have conducted an extensive mapping of communities at risk in Zamfara, in Sokoto, and the security of those communities have been prioritized by the theater headquarters, Operation Fasan Yama, in terms of rapid response, in terms of close deployment, in terms of provision of security for farming, particularly when there are cluster farms. So with that level of security, communities can be rest assured that the military is there to protect them. Of course, we can still do more, but the basics are being provided while we continue working on improving the level of security in outlying communities.
I also want you to speak to the issue of, because we're just trying to x-ray effort here, I would like to speak to the issue of intelligence gathering, especially military intelligence gathering, to forestall incidents of the attack we see. Because sometimes when we see this attack, it feels like it's more reactive than proactive. We've seen some gains, but there's a lot more to be done so that these incidents don't even occur in the first place, or is minimized as much as possible. There's been that issue as to the effectiveness of intelligence gathering to be able to forestall this. And given the incident of either secondary bombing and the back and forth sometimes between the state government and the military as to whether these terrorists are embedded in the system and the communities such that the communities become collateral damage, that back and forth can actually dissipate some level of intel on the ground from the community to the security agencies. How are you managing that?
Yes, asymmetric warfare is intelligence-led. Terrorism is intelligence-led, and the armed forces of Nigeria prioritize intelligence collection. Without intelligence, without actionable intelligence, your ability to succeed in an asymmetric environment is almost zero. So we'll prioritize that. Key programs in this line include the establishment of Joint Intelligence Fusion Cell. The whole idea is to ensure that intelligence from all agencies are centralized and readily available to the troops that need them at the right time. There's also increased ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and Reiki. I did talk about using the Air Force to dominate the terrain. That's also part of intelligence, ensuring that we'll have clear visibility of most of the areas, particularly areas at risk.
Right.
There's also intelligence liaison around the border areas with friendly countries and neighboring countries, so that we'll pull all this together. Now, can we have more intelligence? The answer is always yes. The answer is always yes. Intelligence can never be enough. And I want to talk about the issue of being reactive. For one incident that the armed forces is reactive, about 1,000 have been neutralized through intelligence, which you are not aware of. The one you are aware of is the one that is already out there. For several that have been neutralized, you wouldn't be aware of that.
All right.
So I want you to understand, for every single incident that is out there that the armed forces seems to be reactive,
all right, General,
they have been able to neutralize 1,000.
And we, as always, will wish you the very best. And I know there's also the conversation about, platforms, how available are they, arms and ammunitions. But we have to ask you this question. It's sort of the elephant in the room, right? For days now, Nigeria has been awash with reactions to former military head of state's book, that's IBB's Journey of Service book. And for some people, it just opened old wounds. For those who are maybe not aware of events then, they probably are seeing the military in a different light. So when you're speaking right now, some are perhaps hearing and seeing you from the perspective of that book, some of the things that happened. And I want you to speak to the military establishment now, maybe lessons learned from then and how the military establishment is positioned such that we have weaned ourselves off, you know, that dictatorship military era, and we've sort of intersected well with democracy. How well has the military establishment moved on from events of the past as we wind down, General?
The military have clearly moved on, because the military is very dynamic. Dynamic in the sense that the military is continuous in a state of transformation. And because they are in a state of transformation, things change. Best practices come on board. And they are being refined to ensure that we'll have an armed forces that Nigerians are proud of. The military of 20, 25 years back is clearly, in terms of upbirth, in terms of attitude, in terms of training, even in terms of threat, it's not the same. And because the threats mutate constantly, we keep on changing to be able to address these situations. Now, talking about lessons we have learned in counter-terrorism operations, which I want to put out there, is that first, the whole of society approach is preeminent. Whole of society approach is preeminent in addressing asymmetric conflicts. And that is why if you look at all the strategic documents like the National Security Strategy, the National Counterterrorism Strategy, it talks about whole of society approach. It assigns roles to all MDAs. That is our number one lesson. The number two lesson is that we must be able to produce arms. I thank Mr. President for the DICOM bill that has been signed, which I believe will put us on a better path to local arms production. Because the challenges in procuring arms, even when you have the resources, is huge. But if you can produce at home, that gives you more of a fighting chance.
All right, General.
Again,
maybe
asymmetric threats, particularly terrorism,
maybe
through bilateral and multilateral initiatives.
Okay, General, we're totally out of time. But in fact, the conversation was about to get interesting when you came to the issue of armor and localizing, or what they call backward integrating this production of our armory or our weapons. That will be a big conversation for us, because that's quite critical. But must thank you so much for the work you do. Chief of Defense Operations, Major General Emeka Onumajuru, joining us from Abuja studio. Thank you so much, and thank you for your service, and wish the military the very best and success.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, the women in business are already here. So we spotlight on all of them and the great things they are doing within their little spaces. Join us again.
We have two amazing women doing great stuff in business on the show this morning. We spotlight women in business every Monday because it's our thing, right? So joining us in the studio this morning is Soromidayo Ayo, who's the CEO of Soromidayo Enterprise. She's into fish farming, fisheries generally, the whole value chain. And right next to her is Rebecca Archibong, CEO Bekateng Fashion. I can tell from that it's about fashion. Rebecca, and both of you, welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you.
It's good to be here. I was joking earlier on that fashion meets fishery. Fishery meets fashion, two F's. And starters, and I'll start with Rebecca. The look, I need to get it out of the way.
It's giving.
It's giving, right? As I say. Yes. What inspired the look, and how much work went into this? You know, for men, just throw your jacket, throw your tie, and you're out. But how much work time went into the look?
Okay. First, what inspired the look first is the fact that I'm a Nigerian and I need to represent where I come from. being an African woman. The fabric here is Akwete, it's of the Igbo heritage. So it's almost like the Ashoke, but there's a difference. It's also woven. So I thought that making the Ashoke, the Akwete pants would give me that edge as a Nigerian fashion designer to have that. And then I just topped it up with the silk top. And then my hair.
Exactly.
My hair. My hair just says that, I mean, I'm here. I'm a Nigerian. I'm African.
You have to turn your head and look at me.
Yes, you have to, obviously. And so the process of going through this is amazing, honestly, because you visualize. I visualize what I want, how I want to look, and that helps me, put into it. I do the illustration. After the illustration, okay, what fabric do I think goes well with this? What fabric would give me the exact thing I want, that look I want? And then after that, you go to the pattern drafting. After drafting, you cut and you do the sewing and then the finishing. But this is just for this. But it's also for a couture kind of outfit. That's a wedding dress. It entails a lot. It's a long process.
Yeah.
When it comes to that.
We see some of your designs on the screen. Amazing.
Yes.
Again, women are just amazing.
Yes, yeah.
It's like art with women.
Like an effect kind of.
I mean, look at that.
Oh yeah, this is GDK.
Yeah, the one before that, I had that royal feel, the woman with the, and so you were saying that looked epic.
Yes, because I'm epic. I'm from Cross River State.
Beautiful.
Yes.
And we'll come to explore some of your work further, but let's talk to Soromidayo. You are in a very interesting space. We can't do without food in some sense, but it's a space that has also been quite volatile. Right, the agricultural space has come under a lot of hit. So speak to us first about what it takes to be in the fisheries industry, but what it also takes to be a woman in that sector.
Thank you very much. So what it takes to be in the fish industry, it needs your commitment, your availability, then you need knowledge. You can gather knowledge from institutions that provide solutions around agricultural technical know-how. So coming into agriculture as a woman, it wasn't easy. Before we got here, we were talking at the reception with Madam Akibo. I told her that I used to be a fashion designer, and I did it for 8 years. I graduated 2010, served 2011, and I ran fashion business for 8 years. But personally, I had to leave. I left pre-COVID, and luckily I started fish farming, not knowing how I was going to sell. People were like, are you sure you want to do this? Yes, I bought 1,000 juveniles, and luckily I read them. I had maybe 5-7% mortality. COVID came. How are you going to sell? I live in an estate. As at then, I was in Lagos, because right now our fish farm plaza is in Ogun State. So luckily for us, we had to bring out our fishes because we saw people moving around the estate looking for places to hang out. And in 1 week, we were sold out as barbecue, pepper soup, smoked catfish. And that was how I knew that food business is a great business, that people really would not do, there's no how they would do without eating. Food is life. So that was how I started the business. And after COVID, I had to look for a space on the roadside. That was how I started putting a brand around it, doing the barbecue, going for outdoor services. And, luckily again, people usually ask me that they love to do fish farming, but they don't know how, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the space, the time. And luckily for us, again, we had to get a space. We got a space on the roadside, and that was how the fish plaza started.
Wow, amazing. You're telling us about success story. So let's talk about the work. I'm going to come to you in just a moment because there's a lot of questions as well. So the work involved, that's why we started by saying it's not for the faint-hearted. When you say fertility rate or mortality rate about 7%, and you do your ROI rate on return on investment, it looks very beautiful and big grammar. But what goes into rearing fish? And just give us maybe an example of what you did.
Okay, so for you to start fish farming, you need to get your seedlings right, because that's the foundation. If you miss it, your fishes, it's my, as in you won't like it.
What seedlings?
The seedlings,
What
that's the
does that mean?
juveniles, the fingerlings, or the jumbo. These are baby fishes
So
that you need
whole
to buy.
seedlings,
Yes, they are fish seedlings. Just the way you want to plant your mango, you need the seed, in the ground. So you need the seedlings. You can buy them. You can hatch them yourself. That's another market opportunity around fish farming for fish breeders. So, but it's a very, very technical aspect. If you are very new, it's better to get it from a fish breeder. So you get the seedlings. After the seedlings, fish farming is not as tedious as other form of agricultural businesses.
Really?
Because yes, it is not time consuming, especially when you are not doing it on a large scale. All you need is a tank. You can even get a bowl and start with 50 to 100 pieces. But the thing now is that you just need to give them food morning and evening, so you can still go to work. When I was doing it, I was doing other things around it. But immediately you start scaling, then you need to be available. You need to be available, because even when we had to move our farm due to relocation in Ogun State, we had to pack out and get a house around Ogun State. So we are very close to our fish farm to monitor, to supervise, so that we can have maximum productivity at harvest.
I see that you have nets over the pond. Why is that?
Yeah, it prevents predators, human predators and animal predators. You have snakes crawling into the nets if they are not closely tied. So you have them, they love fishes, they feed on it. We also have the birds.
Snakes?
Yes. The birds and some wild animals, they love to feed on fishes.
And the apex is the human being.
Yes, the human being. So, but immediately you have this net, it will guard against theft. And another thing is you illuminating your farm. So we've worked on having solar street lights on our farms, aside the solar cameras that we also have, so that even at night, immediately we have somebody intruding. Everywhere is illuminated and it can capture whoever is not supposed to be there.
Let's go to Rebecca, the fashion woman. Let's talk about that market and whether it's saturated or there's a lot more with it. We know the big names, maybe help us separate with it, because I know there was an argument one time between a tailor and a fashion designer. What actually is the difference between both, for those who don't know what it is? And how you are working on navigating a part that you have a lot of big names already that are easily recognizable within that space for you as a brand.
Okay, first, for the marketing part of it, we know that social media is #1. And so we do our best to make sure that our pieces go out there on social media. The likes of Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We make sure that our work is showcased on those platforms. And then the other way too we are able to get to that point is word of referral, mouth to mouth. We have clients we've had for over as long as we started who refer people to us, who refer clients to us. And so the big market out there for the big designers, they are big designers, but then I think that for me, I have my own hitch. I know that, okay, I want, this is what I want. I don't have to do what everybody is doing, every designer is doing. Because if you go out, the market is saturated, like you said. Everybody is doing the same thing, basically. And so I have carved myself out, making things that are over time, are timeless, pieces that are timeless, and not everybody goes for that. Everybody wants to wear all the blinks, all that is in vogue. But we try to work according to body type, specifications, and all of that. So it gives us an edge over the other designers who are upcoming, and then we look up to the bigger designers who we think we can, get inspiration from.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we do.
How long have you been in fashion?
Okay, so I have been in fashion for, I would say that in 2011 was when I learned, but I wasn't satisfied. I didn't get that satisfaction I wanted. I wanted more. And so in 2013, I went to the Yaba College of Technology to study fashion, which I finished in, 2019. And I would say that that was when the brand started. So we've been in fashion for 7 years, thereabouts.
Wait, 2013?
Yes, I studied for 5 years.
Ah, I see.
Oh, yes.
No, we can add 2013. We can add it. We can add 12 years. Why I asked is, she was in fashion for 8 years.
Yeah.
And she she jumped back to fishing, where she's doing great now. I don't know, what your biggest reason was what for leaving? I
didn't get fulfillment around it, personally.
There wasn't fulfillment?
Personally.
So how are you able to, because a lot of people do it, again, some people do it because it's a moneymaker. Some do it because it's in trend. Some do it because it's what's available to them. But some do it because it's either fashion or I die. So for people who may want to find their true calling, because it would look like you found your true calling. I mean, look at how you're thriving.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know if you will jack by something bigger, but how do you figure out, okay, is this my calling, and then get fulfillment? Because a lot of people are out there thinking, is it fashion or not? But let me just keep doing it.
Okay, so for me, I would say it's a passion. Reason being that growing up as a child, I always wanted to look different from what everybody in the room looked like. I wanted to be myself, that's Rebecca, before becoming Becca Tech, before I found out I needed to do fashion. And so that was what propelled me to go into fashion. And so I would say that I have the passion, the love. It's not just, but I have the love for it, because fashion is very tedious. It's so tedious that it takes all of you. Everything about, I look this beautiful, but when you see me in the factory, you would not recognize me. To be very honest, I'm somebody else.
Yeah.
So, but it's the passion, the love for it. There are days I'm like, I'm not doing this thing, I'm tired. But then, at that moment, I don't know, somehow somebody will call, you're doing so well. We are proud of you, and that gives me courage to, keep doing it. And so I would say it's a passion. So I would, anybody, if you're doing anything, like she said, she found her place. You have to find that thing you love to do, otherwise you will fall out of it. Because we've had fashion designers who couldn't stand the test of time.
This is my vulnerable moment right here. I don't think I've told anybody, but I learned fashion. I learned tailoring at some point. And for the first 2 weeks, guys, my tutor made me tack buttons. For 2 weeks, I was tacking buttons.
So you're a fashion school dropout.
You can call it that. So when I see both of you, I'm like, this is no joke. I was tacking buttons, Jeffrey, for 2 weeks, every day.
That's the work that is put into designing, illustration, and the sewing. Is it commensurate with the amount you're being paid when the piece is finally out?
Okay.
How do you do pricing?
How do I do my pricing? I do my costing, my time. I talk about the production, the fabric sourcing, all of the things I need.
In the face of competition, put that at the back of your mind.
Yes, in the face of competition. I would say that because I would say that I have paid my bills. I have done that. I have made clothes for people, because I'm trying to get to that point where I can say that, okay, I can collect this amount of money.
Right.
Yeah. So I would say that I'm at that place where I can call a price and I should be paid for, because, I mean, my service is top-notch.
It's worth it.
It's worth it.
So, Armida, I don't think anybody argues for the price of fish.
No.
Because you know the price, and it depends on the size. But as we wind down on this conversation, I'd like you to speak to the opportunities in that sector as well. I think what you're doing is really great. You have a plaza. That's what you call it.
Yeah.
So it's almost like an estate of... So what are the opportunities, and should I go into... Because I know people who have gone into it and came back crying. So what are the opportunities, and should you go into it or not?
Okay, so the opportunities around what we do is that people earn passive income. So without lifting a muscle, their money works for them. And the business has been able to stand the test of time. Like I said, we were in Agege originally, or the leased facility, but, agricultural land around policies around agricultural land did not favor us. So lands were sold to realtors, it became an estate, and we had to move, even after spending so much. That was how we became an Ogun State resident. And, even coming down here is been a blessing, because we now have a lot of land to be able to work, to rear more fishes. We were doing like around maybe 120,000 fishes there. Right now we have 20 ponds, and we are still digging more.
How many thousand fish do you have now?
In a pond, we have 4,000 to 5,000 fishes.
And you have 20 now?
So, yeah, so that's like 200,000 fishes. So we do that in a quarter. 3 months, we sell off to, we have the ready off-takers, the malam, they are the one that buys more. Yeah. Even though there are challenges around it, sorry, I didn't mention it the other time, we have fishmongers. And these people have been able to wreck a lot of farmers. If you are not careful...
As in like bandits.
if you're not careful, they add magnet to your scale. It will reduce the fish weight. Like you said, there's a price.
Yeah.
So you can't negotiate. But this price, these fishes, they will lose weight at the end of the day. What you're supposed to sell for 50 kg, maybe weighing 250,000, you'll be selling 120. At the end of the day, you cannot restock.
So, I promise you that this is not the end of this conversation. In fact, we're coming to your space because there's a lot of opportunities here, and we have to thank you for championing that in collaboration with others. We'll be speaking with Sorbidayo Ayo, CEO, Sorbidayo Enterprise, and Rebecca Archibong, CEO, Bekateng Fashion. So, fashion meets fashion and fish eventually. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's nice.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies. And we'll switch gears now. So we'll head back to London this time as we bring in an author in our morning chapter segment where we highlight some of the things that people are doing writing. A book right now is causing a lot of controversy in Nigeria, but let's take a look at this one in just a moment. Welcome back. We'll be joined in the program by an author, Mr. Silas Omoha, who wrote the book, My Drama-Free Neighbor and Me. Mr. Omoha, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate you.
Good morning.
All right, the title of your book arouses curiosity, My Drama-Free Neighbor and Me. So let's begin from there, because I have plenty or lots of questions to ask. Why this title?
It's a sequel from my second book, My So-Called Friends. So My So-Called Friends is about navigating simple, complex relationships. And My Drama-Free Neighbor borrows from that, that caption of My So-Called Friends.
I think I remember it was Babatunde Fashola, the former governor of Lagos State, who said that conflict is a necessary incident of human existence. You can't really run away from it. So what is this book trying to say? No conflict, or avoiding conflict, being evasive to conflict? What exactly are you trying to say?
I think the first thing is to understand that you can be a drama-free neighbor. So everybody is a part of a system. Everybody has a neighbor, and everybody's a neighbor to somebody. So I think the core aspect of what we are trying to say is to be that kind of neighbor you expect others to be, pretty much.
Interesting. And I think that this is something everybody should grab. This is a book everybody should grab, because as much as you blame your neighbor, right, you're probably a dramatist in that sense as a neighbor yourself, because I think it takes two to have neighbors, right? So I am a neighbor as well, as I think the other person is a neighbor. But as much as I want to whet people's appetite, but what are some of the high points, or are the highlights of your book, and what can we glean from it?
One of the chapters of the book talks about the profile of a self-centered person. There is one that talks about letting the grains fall on purpose, just giving us that consciousness to be self-aware. So it's important for people to be self-aware. It is important to be grateful to people when they help you. It is important to be kind, and it is important to love yourself. It starts from loving yourself. And because everything we do emanates from how healthy we are as a person, as an individual. So that's I think in a nutshell, it's about relationship with God, relationship with yourself, and relationship with people.
But some of our neighbors are people that can eventually become governors, or already governors, or presidents, or all of that. So I'll give you a case study on how to deal with this particular neighbor. His name is Donald Trump, and he's been a neighbor that has been shaking all the neighbors around the world. So if at that level you were to look at, contextualize this book at that level, what would you say is the best way to relate with such kind of personality and neighbor if you're a leader of a country? People have said he's racist, he's narcissistic, but he gets the job done.
The first thing I'll say is to understand that everybody has a strength and a weakness. So what I'll aim for is to zoom in on the strength of the individual. So I would capitalize on making good use of what the strengths are. And in doing so, I'll get the best out of such an individual. So that's my approach. Everybody has a strong point. Everybody has a weak point. So if I'm going to engage with anybody, what I should be doing is to be aiming for the strengths. How can I engage? How can I bring out the best? How can I invoke the best out of this person?
The reason I ask that question is because some neighbors are impossible. What do you do with an impossible neighbor?
What do you do with an impossible neighbor? Find somebody else.
Okay,
I didn't see that coming.
I'm sure you're not talking. I'm sure this is literal in some sense, because some will say, "Well, rent is expensive." I know someone who complained that where they're staying now, they had lots of issues, right? So they wanted to move somewhere else, and they saw that rent was ×2, and they said, "You know what? I'm going to stay here and just endure all of the things I'm going through." But I kind of like what you did with the book, how you broke down some of the neighbors. The egocentric friend, the social climber, the rat racer, the time waster, the two-faced, the subtractor, the divider. I love that. So is that meant to help people first see who their neighbors are, but also see who they may be as well as a neighbor?
Absolutely. So the first thing about the definition of who a neighbor is in Luke chapter 10. It's the story of the Samaritan. So in that story, 3 entities or 3 people passed by Jericho, and there was a man who had been robbed, who had been battered and wounded and needed medical attention. A pastor passed by, did nothing about it. A member of the choir or a Levite, if you want to put it in that sense, passed by, did nothing about it. And then somebody who did not go to church passed by, picked up this man and put him in his carriage or his car, takes him to the hospital, pays the bill, gives extra for any other incidents or anything that could occur. So, and then Jesus asked a question. He said, who was a neighbor to this man? And the neighbor to the man was the Samaritan. So that's the concept of who a neighbor is. So when you talk about the rat racer, you talk about the egocentric friend or the social climber, the first thing to do is to, like you've said, to look at yourself and to see if you identify any of those traits in yourself. And then also look around you and see if these are the traits you find in the people you associate with. And then you make the necessary adjustments.
I need to see the cover of the book. I know it's close to you, but just for the benefit of people who are wondering, what does it look like? There you go, The Drama-Free Neighbor. A very interesting read.
All right, quite an interesting caption, if you ask me. Well, there are so many neighbors in the world. Thank you so much, Silas Omoha, the author of My Drama-Free Neighbor and Me, joining us via Zoom from London. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So from this drama-free neighbor, we have to say thank you so much for being a part of the Morning Brief, and I hand over to my other drama-free neighbor.
We're drama-free, totally. And so we're handing now over to our other drama-free neighbors. They'll be coming up at the top of the hour on Sunrise Daily. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. Bye-bye.